Greetings and welcome to The Thirsty Mage, the podcast whose participants have developed a case of hemophobia as a result of playing a particular demo. I'm your host David Lloyd, and yes, this week we got to play a game that has more blood and guts than the opening cinematic of the Blade movie starring Wesley Snipes. This week our trio managed to get onto the Diablo IV Beta, and we have some expert opinions on what we've seen so far. If you had a chance to join the beta, you may have seen this druid running around leading a pack of werewolves. It's Jordan Rudick.
I wish I developed. I don't even know if he has that skill. I turned into a werewolf and I turned into a werebear, but I didn't have any minions. And I do like my minions, but I'm going to save the minion play for when I start my necro. So
yeah, I looked up a quick. I was like, what does the druid do? And so I looked up a quick video, and I'm like, okay, he's got like two werewolves running behind him. Looking pretty boss, so I figured that was the main mechanic. So
he's kind of a jack of all trades. I feel like he has magic, he has like melee, like close up physical attacks, he has minions, he has a little bit of everything. So I like the idea that you can kind of play however whatever kind of style you want to go with it. And I think that's what attracted me to the druid in Diablo 2's expansion when they introduced those two new characters. I really liked that. I could play, 3 or 4 different druids, and it all felt like a different kind of experience. So,
yeah, I didn't look up the necro, but I'm assuming that there's a lot of undead minions doing this guy's bidding. It's Casey Gibson.
Howdy ho! Yes, well, I wanted to make a note, and then you guys kept going of Jordan's line of "I'll keep the pet play for my necro play," and it sounded weird.
Yeah.
But yes, you with the necromancer, you do have some demons and minions helping you along the way. But yeah, it's without getting too much into it right off the bat. But yeah, it seems like there are a few different ways to play. You could rely on the minions, you could rely more on some ranged attacks and damage over time. But seems like you can get some sort of melee type abilities as well. So yeah, it seems like it's going to be good fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, I shot arrows and got drunk, so I had a good time.
Are you talking about, just in your living room, or was that in the game?
I'm gonna leave that up for interpretation.
Yeah, that's right.
No, it's the Diablo IV Beta. I guess so. The people who pre-ordered the game, and Casey, you're one of them. So this is your second go with the beta. But I guess a few weeks ago, the people who pre-ordered the game got access to like a pre-beta, I guess. And then the one last weekend, as of this recording, was the one that was kind of available to anyone who was able to go on. It was funny, Jordan and I were talking about it. I think we were both at work at the time and both hopped onto our cell phones and downloaded the beta at like noon when it became available. It's a pretty neat ability to just kind of hop on your phone and be like, PS5, download this game.
Got to give credit to the PlayStation app. It's actually... you can't do a ton of stuff in there, but what you can do, it's very seamless. Like I do really like it. I like how it sends me a little notification when the game is finished downloading, or I was able to clear delete games off of my console from my phone. It just felt like something I hadn't really done before. And maybe it's not that advanced, but I liked the way the app kind of displayed it all. Like it was very nice. So yeah, we downloaded, went onto the PS app on our phone, downloaded the game there. I had to delete a couple games to free up the space, of course, as you do. And then, it was ready for me, I guess, that later that day or that night when I ended up going on. But,
we Switch Online app, better watch out. It's got competition.
That is one that name shall not be spoken on this podcast. It's such an abomination of an app.
Does the Nintendo Switch Online app still exist? Like, I don't even know. It's probably still got Splatoon 2 branding.
It probably got shut down with the 3DS and Wii U eShops, I'd say. You might as well just take them all out back and shoot them, right? So
nobody noticed it was delisted 3 years ago because nobody was using it. Yeah. No, I thought it was pretty handy. Like the most surprising thing to me is that it works. Usually the apps just don't seem to work. The most fun I had with the Xbox app is accidentally buying a game because I thought I owned the game and it let me download the game, but then didn't tell me that it didn't own the game. It just let me download it from the app. But it was like this weird loophole of the only way I could have possibly have done that was through an Android version of the Xbox app on my phone. So it's like, it's really weird. It's like you can download games you don't own from the Xbox app through the Android, and then when you actually go to play it, you could end up accidentally purchasing it. So
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a scam there. I don't. That's not intentionally reader friendly or player friendly
no,
or consumer friendly or anything like that.
yeah,
So we both played on PlayStation 5. Casey, were you on PlayStation? You're on PC.
I played PC.
You did, okay. So I'm curious about your experience, with keyboard and mouse, obviously, where we were on console, and just to kind of compare the two, because, obviously, growing up playing it on PC, first game, second game, the third game I probably would have dabbled. I would have started playing on PC, but eventually played I think I ended up reviewing the Switch version of Diablo 3 as well, and kind of dabbled with some of the console versions along the way, but I guess I always felt like PC was like, just felt more natural, would be the home for this game. So how did your experience on PC go from like logging into the game to just a minute to minute playing of it?
Yeah, it seemed pretty seamless. Yeah, I've always I guess the very first time I ever played Diablo 1 was on PlayStation 1,
Oh,
and
you
my
did?
neighbors
Yeah.
barely played it. And then we got it for PC, and then and then obviously 2 was only for PC for the longest time. And then 3, 3 was, again, I played on PC, and then I eventually played on Switch, and I was like shocked at how well it all worked on the
Mhm.
on the Switch, especially how it ran, but mostly just how they, pretty did a pretty great job at like mapping it to a controller, making it feel really good. But yeah, I've always been used to sort of pointing to and clicking where you want to go, and then using your abilities. But yeah, on this it feels good. You do have sort of a limited amount of sort of mappable keys. So you can only have so many abilities on your bar there. But yeah, it's funny, going from Diablo 2 where it's like just your right click and your left click, and then you can sort of scroll through, or you can use like your F, 1 through whatever to bind keys.
Mhm.
So this definitely works well, better, and it seems obviously nowadays they sort of you know develop how the interface and how everything's going to work with controller in mind. So I imagine this probably plays pretty awesome on a controller too.
Yeah, I mean they obviously figured that out with the third game, and it is funny that you played the original game on PlayStation. That was your first experience with it. But yeah, I think they've come a long way. Like you understand, like it's a huge player base that's on consoles, and you want to develop a game in mind with them. And I think even the gameplay seems a little more suited to a console as well. Just kind of thinking about. The default perspective of the character, the way abilities are assigned to the buttons and everything, it just prompts, menuing, everything seems very simplified or streamlined, I guess might be a better way to say it, compared to some of the other games. Like I just look at my inventory and I think like, oh, it's so much easier to navigate than it might have been. And again, because I don't have, not using a mouse on my PlayStation, obviously, so I'm able to kind of flick through and put equipment where it needs to be, go between the menus. There's just not that many menus to navigate anymore, and I think they've really tried to make the game more approachable for everybody. It feels more action RPG-ish than maybe it had originally, or I guess Diablo was almost its own genre before, but it seems to be a little bit more just slotting into a kind of more traditional action RPG. I don't know if David, if you kind of felt the same way, having experience with those genres as well.
Yeah, like I don't know if the first two felt more like CRPG ish in a sense, but I definitely it feels like playing a little bit of 3 and then playing this demo that it definitely feels like an action RPG to me. It almost reminded me too of like almost like an MMO style with like the key bindings and stuff, like because it was, I'm sure they all learn from each other, but the way that I was like using the controls reminded me of Final Fantasy 14 on like playing it on the PS5 to a certain extent, like using like the R2 and L2 and the face buttons for all the movements and kind of running around. But yeah, like definitely, having played a lot of CRPGs last year, it's definitely got a different feel. It's like a lot more fluid, a lot more like there's no pausing or anything. It's like you're always in the action.
Yeah, it seems like they probably play a little Lost Ark as well. which is it's an MMO, but it's sort of plays like a Diablo-esque game. That sort of perspective and sort of just slaughtering enemies. But it'll be interesting to see because Lost Ark being an MMO, you saw people sort of in the town, sort of like this game, right? In the city and the different towns, you do see some people sort of congregated up that aren't quote unquote like partied with you at all. And then when you sort of venture out of the town, it becomes more sparse. I have seen a few people running around that weren't in my group, but a little bit more isolated out in the world. But and that's sort of how it felt like Lost Ark. You'd see some people and things like that. So I think they probably took some sort of motivation or some inspiration, I guess maybe is the word, within that, which I think is good because, some social aspects are good. Obviously, they're going to try and find a way to monetize it more, which, with the battle passes and stuff. So hopefully they're not too egregious.
Yeah, but I don't think we've heard any, or I haven't noticed any announcements of what the battle passes will look like either content or cost wise.
I think it's going to be more cosmetics and stuff like that, but yeah, you never know.
Like, I mean, that makes sense, and I think that they're going to be very careful after the whole Diablo Immortal thing. You've got phones, right? The kind of butchered launch of Diablo 3 with the auction house and everything.
Like, where's my marketplace? I want to sell my makeshift bows and just go into full time Diablo, grinding and selling, quit my job.
It's only eBay for you, David. Sorry, you got to keep your eBay exploits off the.
I'll have to stick Diablo with the retro games, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
It does remind me of early Diablo 3 days. I found a ring that was really good, and some guy was like, "I'll buy it from you for $10." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Like, do you want me to put it on the auction?" He's like, "No, I don't want to pay the fees. I'll just friends and family it to you." And then he sent me $10 and I gave him the ring, and I was like, okay.
It reminds me of years ago when eBay curbed I was going to be a World of Warcraft seller. I would get the account to 250 and then sell it. I remember I'm pretty sure it was World of Warcraft that did that, and then eBay put the kibosh on selling your account.
Yeah, because it was against terms of service. So I remember back in the day, you could sell Diablo 2 items too, which I think was technically against service, but yeah, it was a lot easier, I guess, or a lot more difficult to track that kind of thing.
Everybody was selling Sajas, right? Like,
you go, I'm just going to buy 10 high runes and then just go trading.
Wasn't at some point like a Saj or some of the gems, like that was the currency people were using? Like,
the high runes.
They were spending those as currencies, yeah.
Yeah, it used to be the SOJ in the beginning, and then I think, then all of a sudden once high runes became a thing, But it's always funny because there's only, there's so many high runes, and then it's like, oh, well, that's like a low high rune versus like, oh, that's like a top tier high rune.
When it gets
the original crypto or what?
Gosh, that's a hideous comparison, but maybe true. Honestly, when the game kind of gets to that level, it kind of turns me off a little bit. Like I don't really care so much about that end game stuff. It's just not me. Like, and I like that just this beta experience. Like I'm completely removed from that. Like I'm just kind of enjoying the story, enjoying this world, the combat, kind of seeing how interesting the skill tree is, right? The fact that you can reset skill points is awesome, and like it's just such a really good feature to have. And so I'm experimenting with werebear and werewolf, and whether I want to use like the earth type skills or the wind type skills or the kind of storm type skills, and just being able to play around with all that with Druid was really fun. I don't know what classes you guys went, or if you did you end up running Casey, did you run the prologue multiple times, or do you get to skip it if you play a different character? I was curious. I only ran the one character, but I was curious if I in the last couple hours of the beta, if I'd started a new one, would I be able to skip the prologue I'd already done or not?
No, you would have had to have done it again. Okay, obviously, like if you skip the like cutscenes and stuff, you can get through it pretty quick.
Oh, sure. And once you know where to go, and you're not kind of like checking every bush and talking to every NPC and everything, right?
Yeah, because I started with a barbarian. Because the first weekend they didn't have the necromancer or druid available, so it was the barbarian, the rogue, and the sorceress. So the first weekend I made a barb and a source. Yeah, with the barb, I was like literally every corner. I was going real methodical, checking everything. Yeah, and then you sort of start to blow through it. I did really like that opening cutscene, right, or like the opening little area. You get to the town. There's the crazy guy in the shed being wild, and then you go help the town, and it turns out he's actually the good guy, right, or not the crazy guy. But I thought it was
Spoilers.
so funny after you get back from killing the boss, right, and then like they all start partying and celebrating, and then I'm like, this is so weird, like for like a Diablo game to have like the little music and they're dancing around, and then all of a sudden you start getting dizzy, and I was like, oh man, what's going on here? So I thought that was really cool. Some really cool cutscenes with Lilith, right, when you're in the church and you sort of see what's going on with that. But yeah, no, you can't skip it, but you can, when you do end up skipping the cutscenes, you can get through it pretty quickly.
I really liked the turn in this game thematically or atmospherically to a much more horror based game. Like I felt like the third game got away from that a little bit. It seemed very like arcadey and actiony and lots of like lights and colors, gold spraying everywhere,
You got
loot spraying everywhere, but this one, like just from the immediate and the intro cutscene, like it's scary. It's a scary game. Like, and I like it. The first game was very scary to me, and to kind of go back to those roots, it felt really good to kind of see that again. Like minute to minute gameplay, that's not, but the story that's being told, the cutscenes that happen, the interactions with some of the characters, it all felt like kind of a little bit more horror tinged than the third game was. So I'm excited about that. I think that this is going to be like kind of a really deep, dark world to explore, with lots of interesting side quests and just kind of demonic, hellish things happening that you're like, oh my gosh, like I need to stop playing for a little while. Like this is too intense. I got to take a little break. I like that element of Diablo, and I'm happy to see it returning. Like even the second game wasn't scary per se compared to the first. So for it to go back to its roots of the first game, like I'm all for that.
I'm hoping that they keep the dichotomy, because I was killing myself laughing when I started drinking, because I'm like, man, my character is so screwed. Because as soon as they're like feeding my character the beer, I'm like, you're like, I know where this is going. And then when the guy came in with the wheelbarrow, like I just lost it. I just thought it was hilarious. But it was like you said, then like a few seconds later, so you're watching this like kind of cinema scene where the guy's like walking you to the barn, and all of a sudden it opens it up, and there's like entrails hanging from the ceilings and blood everywhere, and
the slaughterhouse.
Slaughterhouse, yeah, it's just wild. I'm like, oh my god. And then that cuts into the like you said, when there's you were kind of introduced to Lilith in a cutscene earlier in the game, with the poor guy who manages to survive the monsters and then gets butchered by the I'm assuming that character that calls Lilith is someone from, like, this is a recurring character, or what?
I don't. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know every lore character in the world, but I don't think so.
Okay.
I didn't
Look
recognize him either.
I think he might even just be like one of their like followers or something, or maybe like a higher up follower. But I don't know if he'll get a name and necessarily be like.
I mean, it might be that later on in the game, it's revealed his role in a previous game or something like that. But I'm with Casey.
Some retconning.
Yeah, could be.
You find out he's been around all along or something.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But it's interesting because sort of like what Jordan mentioned before. I think Diablo 3 got wowed. You know what I mean? Like World of Warcraft's influence crept on it big time. I think. But Blizzard always sort of has like, or usually has like a cartoony aesthetic, right? Like World of Warcraft is inherently cartoony and Hearthstone and all that stuff. So I think, that sort of crept in there. Yeah. Like sort of colorful, this, that, and the other thing. So I'm glad, they're getting back to the appropriate atmosphere for what a Diablo game should be. Dark, gritty, gothic.
It just feels mature. It feels dark and mature and more adult and less like just kind of video gamey. And I like that. Like there's a little bit more of a cinematic quality to this game that was missing. The second game had that a little bit. I don't remember too much the cinematics of the third game, but this game, it just felt like as much as you are playing it, you are also watching it. You're watching things unfold. You're kind of edge of your seat during the cutscenes. What's going to happen. The characters you're meeting, they seem involved in less kind of jokey, kind of like slapsticky events, and more like, oh, like there's serious stuff going down here, right? Like, and I like that. I like that turn for this series. I think that's smart. I think it's going to hook a lot of people in. I think it's going to kind of differentiate this game from others that have come out that kind of try to walk that line of kind of fantasy and humor. If this game goes pretty dark, without being like absurdly dark, but more serious tone to it, I think that'll hit pretty well. This beta really sold me on the game, guys. Like I wasn't even really expecting to play the beta necessarily. I was probably just going to pick up the game because a bunch of buddies are working on it. I've mentioned before that I have a friend who's working on the game.
Because you're a Diablo junkie, and we know the real reason.
Exactly. Like, but funny is, like, again, what Diablo has become, this idea of like running the game constantly, just going through it, trying to get the best loot and going through all the difficulties. I don't care about that. I want a long, kind of lengthy, padded, main story with interesting side quests that I can put like 60 to 80 hours in, and then maybe occasionally dabble with friends. Like I don't care to like get to level 100 and keep looking for the best gear. I don't want that. And what I'm hoping is that we're going to find out that the game has a way of catering to both of those types of players. And I think they have to do that, just for the longevity of it. Like you are going to have some kind of battle pass. There's going to be some kind of online. There's going to be an expansion that adds new characters and brings everyone back in. Like that method is working well for them, right? Like the idea of an expansion that adds one or two characters, everyone gets excited about the game again. They announce like a new act or a new world.
Act 5, dude. That's still so good in D2.
Yeah, it's really, really good. So like I'm excited to see what happens with that as well. That'll get people back in. But yeah, this I think this game's going to be huge. I think it's going to be the game of the summer. I think it's obviously you've got Final Fantasy 16 coming out a few weeks after this game, but I think a lot of people are still going to be playing Diablo, and it's good that those the fans of those series won't overlap too much. But yeah, I mean, I can speak for Casey and me. We are definitely going to be playing Diablo when FF16 comes out. And not to say we won't play both, but yeah, I'm going to be pretty stuck in this one, I think.
Yeah, I'm never playing Final Fantasy 16.
There you go.
No, I think that the beauty of it is that Final Fantasy, when you're looking for that story, and not to say Diablo doesn't have good story, but like, right, usually like you'll beat that, and then it turns into a more of a grindy sort of game, which is good. I don't mean that in a bad way. So yeah, I feel like Diablo is a game like, you'll probably play through the main story and keep playing through. And then, it could just be like, hey, I've got a half hour, an hour. Let me jump in there and sort of mess around. But yeah, I really like too, right? The main character here, Lilith, is sort of like the big bad, right? And she's like, she's the offspring of, of Mephisto, which is Diablo 2, like, one of my favorite bosses in Diablo 2. And then an angel, right? So she's sort of a mix of the devil, or not the devil, demons and angels. So sort of cool groundwork. She seems like she'd be a fun sort of antagonist throughout the game. And then I guess just to talk a little bit about the classes, right? More so, I know Jordan already talked a little bit about the druid earlier, but warrior or barbarian's cool because you actually hold like a couple different weapons at one time. Like you sort of got one-handers slotted in, and you have a two-hander as well. And like in previous Diablo games, you could sort of press a button to switch your abilities or switch your weapons on the fly. But here, it actually, depending on which or what ability you use, will actually dictate which weapon like you use, because they're all equipped. So it's sort of cool that you have multiple weapons equipped. You're doing sort of like a quicker, smaller attacks. You use the one-handers. You jump into whirlwind. All of a sudden, like you'll use your big two-hander to whip around, which I thought was pretty cool. Sorceress, there were a whole bunch, obviously, right? Like so many different elements. You could sort of focus on electric, fire, ice. Like they've got like Hydra builds, and some obviously your teleport, right? Like famous for the sorceress in the Diablo world. I felt like I played barbarian first, then I played sorceress, and I felt way more powerful as a sorceress.
Yeah, such a
Like
good class.
yeah, like the barb, I wasn't like I'm not saying I was sitting there not doing anything in terms of damage, but then I was playing as a sorceress. I had like the frozen orb, which shoots out like a frozen orb, but then like icicles shoot off around that orb, so it does nice AoE damage, and I just felt like I was absolutely wrecking things in comparison.
I mean, I get, the trade-off, I guess, is that if you're the sorceress, like you're a little bit more glass cannon, right? Like if you get swarmed, like it's maybe more likely that you'll get taken down. But if you're the barbarian, you've got a little bit more defense and health, and you can
Yeah, a
probably
little
take more of a
bulkier.
pounding, right?
Yeah, it's sort of, and it'll be interesting to see, right? Obviously, beta was up to level 25. I didn't cap any to 25.
Yeah, neither did I.
I was just sort of in like a hey, like you know, this is a beta, right? Like I'm not one of those crazy guys that are going to get to 25 and then try every skill and then be able to tell you like, oh well, these are the most powerful, verse. Like, and I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that did that, but
You didn't get every character to 25, Casey, and start jotting down all their stats and seeing who
no,
was doing the most
I'm a
DPS.
I'm
failure.
gonna need you to post those spreadsheets.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
yeah.
Yeah.
Those are for
But I did,
Patreons only. Sorry, for patrons
like
only.
for me, Necromancer was sort of the class that I was like, hey, this is what I think I will likely play. That was sort of where I was leaning. Couldn't play it the first weekend, so I was a little bummed out. The second weekend, boom, got in there with the Necromancer. Oh baby, so good. Yeah, you start out with some skeletons. But man, there were just so many. Like I was saying a little before, you can have like a sort of a melee like attack. It's got some long range, but you're like swinging around the Sith to do damage. But I really found one that was sort of cool. I mean, Corpse Explosion, right? If you ever played,
Gotta love it.
yeah, it's super good. But I found, so with the skill trees, right? It's sort of like you could pick a skill, um, and then after that you can invest another point that sort of buffs that skill, and then after that there's like a one of two options, like for instance with the Corp Explosion, and this is paraphrasing, but like you could either, one of them was like, oh, the radius is bigger and it does more damage, or it actually doesn't turn into an explosion but turns into like a void zone and then like does damage over time. So instead of just having the corpses explode, I was doing like the void zone, and like that was really good because my minions would essentially tank the enemies right in sort of one spot. They would die. Then I would drop these void zones that would just sort of like just do ramping damage. So like I would kill enemies really quick, but you'd also kill bosses really fast too, because they would be standing in these void zones. So it seems like there's quite a bit to play around with, which is going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's funny. It seems like I'm the only one that went with the rogue from the sounds of it.
Yep, loser.
Yeah, and I have no point of comparison to be like tell you if they're more powerful than any of the other classes or what kind of damage they were doing. I guess all I can do is some anecdotal discussion of it. It seemed like things were dying pretty quickly. Like it didn't. I don't recall things taking too long. The bosses, I was just kind of eating through them pretty quickly. I guess I always seem to kind of go towards the rogue characters in most games, so I just figured it seemed like the most natural for me. Love the speed of the rogue, I guess. Like there's being able to dodge very quickly and kind of roll around and shoot from afar. Usually I would kind of see them come onto the screen and then just start firing away, because like you don't have to worry about aiming or anything, right? It's just like an auto aim, so I just kind of sit back and hit the button, let the arrows do their work.
So what kind of abilities did the rogue have? Like it seemed kind of a mix of like the Amazon from Diablo 2 with the assassin, or I think it's called assassin, because you had traps, right? I don't know if you used any of those skills or not, but
I stuck to, like, when I was unlocking skill tree stuff, I was mainly sticking to the kind of offensive moves, like
mhm.
the like, you know, you can get like a homing arrow and the wave where you're like firing off multiple shots of arrows at any given time. And it was funny too because like I wasn't really paying attention to I was just kind of firing arrows, and I'm like, man, it seems weird, like I can just do all these skills, and is there not like some kind of cooldown thing or anything? Like, I just felt like I was firing arrows all the time. And then that's when I noticed like the blue orb or whatever that would go down as I'm using it, and I'm like, man, like it seems pretty generous, the amount of stuff that I can do without having to wait for it to recharge. So I don't know if I know I was kind of I don't know what the term would be, but you know, an enemy would die and I would kind of relish the victory for a second usually. So, you know, maybe my showboating or gloating between kills was affording me the time to get my skills back. Usually I do like a little moonwalk backwards dance after the big kill. So I don't know, but
Again, in game or real life, right? Maybe both.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you
I
know, I'm just getting ready for like the VR experience. So, you know, you got
Yes,
to get your,
exactly.
yeah.
I wanted to ask, so yeah, so the druid had a spirit ability as well. So in werebear form, you would quickly turn into a bear. You'd smash the ground, like hit all the enemies around you, stun them sometimes. Occasionally, that ability could become like supercharged or overpowered, and you do like 4 times damage. It was insane. It was just so powerful. But I can only do 2 or 3 of those ground pound smashes before my spirit meter would run out. I wanted to ask Casey about with sorceress, if you are doing like a lot of spell spamming, like is your spirit running out? Do you have like does it recharge pretty fast? Like I guess my character only used spirit for this one move that I can remember. So most of the time I wasn't really relying on that secondary kind of mana spirit meter. I was just kind of focusing on health, and even health. I want to talk about that in a little bit, but the way you acquire new health is pretty interesting, or more health potions, I guess, is pretty interesting too.
Mm.
Yeah,
Did
Casey, how did the sources work in terms of like mana or stamina?
Yeah, so usually, so like the nodes, right? Like when looking at the skill tree, like the first node would be sort of like a builder of some sort. So like using that would be sort of building mana back, I believe.
Hmm.
Just I guess I I don't want to say with a million percent certainty, but I'm pretty sure like that first, because I know with the barbarian it was something like that first node would be like your builder, and then like your other abilities would spend it.
Okay.
And I think the sorceress was similar, unless if it was mana was just over time. But I think it was tied to sort of like, hey, use this first, sort of weaker ability that sort of will build up your mana so you can do like the more devastating attacks. But
Yeah, I gotcha. That sounds pretty cool. I like that idea of kind of charging up to
yeah, like the
get your
builder
special abilities.
spender model or whatever they call it.
Yeah, because I mean, the idea of, and I think they've kind of figured this out a little bit, or can understand it, sure, from a game design standpoint. Like people don't want to be waiting for meters to recharge. You know, again, it's not an MMO, even if it has like some roots in there or some mechanics that it's borrowing. Like, I think that kind of something I noticed about this game is very snappy. Like you don't need to do a lot of inventorying. You don't need to do a lot of worrying about potions or managing your meters, right? Like I was playing on I guess I think there were 1 or 2 difficulties. And I was playing on the slightly harder one. And I felt the game felt like a good challenge. I think for especially like a couple hours in, I don't know if David, I don't think got to this point. Casey might have, where you go into the mines with this girl and this soldier, I guess. He ends up leaving you, and you're chasing down this girl's mother. And you end up finding her kind of at the bottom of the mine shaft, and she's been kind of taken over, or um, kind of hypnotized, I suppose, or won over to the cause of Lilith, and so she becomes almost like a necromancer herself, summoning demons, I guess, or spirits. And that fight took me a couple tries. It was pretty tough, but I guess I was going to say that the way that you acquire new health potions is interesting. You're not picking them up per se by defeating enemies, or especially stronger enemies. They'll occasionally drop these kind of red health
like
orbs or
charges.
charges. Yeah, so you start off the game with 4 health potion charges, but as you expend them, you can pick up more charges, and I guess up to that maximum number. And then you can upgrade your potions, right, to make them stronger. I think to give you more charges as well, based
Yep,
on
that
stuff you're
the
doing in the world,
alchemist in
right?
town.
Yeah, that's right. And what I liked is the way that you upgrade the potions. It felt a little Dark Soulsy to me, like kind of upgrading your Estus flask in that way. Like you always have potions, and sometimes you get more charges of them from fighting enemies, right? But the fact that you can make it stronger, I liked that. The idea of kind of making your potion stronger. I always think that's like a meaningful objective in the game. So that kind of crafting, I like that idea. I want to do that. I'm going to pursue that, obviously, because the stronger your potions are, the longer you can kind of spend out in the world. The idea there were, I missed this. I probably read it too fast. I wasn't really paying attention, kind of just running through the game. But there's things you can do to kind of improve the world, or kind of improve the state of things, and you also get points for doing that. Casey, do you know what I'm talking about? Or David, maybe?
Not exactly.
Okay.
No.
To be honest with me, like if I'm just talking out my butt here, maybe, but
I
yeah,
don't know if you're talking out your butt or if I just overlooked it, because once I sort of got into that main town, and like there were a lot of people trying to tell you spiels, and like
yeah, there's a lot of people there.
yeah, they're trying to sort of, hey, go talk to here. This is the person that sells you armor. This is the person that will, yeah, alchemist, yeah, will boost up your potion and stuff. And I think eventually I was just like, I don't care.
You're
Let me
just
play.
you're like inundated with tutorials, and you're like,
Is
this
it-
is a beta. I don't want all the tutorials right now. Like at the
Yeah.
full
for me, it
full
was
game
just
starts.
who can I kill? Who can I
That's,
kill?
that's
Yeah,
right.
That's all I want to know. Who can I kill?
But it's sort of cool, right? When you get to that first major town, it like, right. I guess, and my most experiences with Diablo 2, so that's where I always sort of go back to for reference.
Yeah, me too.
But right when you go in Diablo 2, like it was sort of randomly generated, but like there was always like a beginning and an end, right? And like this one zone will always lead to this next zone. It's just a matter of finding the exit, from that area, and like, in between there'd be random stuff getting in your way and things. This, I don't know, like, right? Like when you go out of town, it's like, oh, well, I could go up over to the right and then work my way north, or I could go and work my way south, or, you know what I mean? There was a lot of different areas you could go and just sort of explore. Now, I
Mhm.
don't know if they're always going to be sort of like, previous games where it's like, hey, there's an entrance and an exit, and the in between sort of random, or if this is more like, hey, like the areas would be more crafted, since like this, more of an open world. But yeah, it seemed like, hey, go in any direction, and there's, sort of like D3, there's different objectives, right? Like, oh, I stumbled across a scenario, stand on these 4, you know, big, essentially 4 buttons, right? And then as you're doing it, it's like draining blood to load it up, and enemies are attacking. And then, if you kill a certain amount of enemies before it all happens, you get extra bonus. And they like to throw those little mini objectives and stuff in there.
Yeah, I came across one of those as well. We were defending like a caravan, or like a series of like supply trucks or something like that. And then another druid came along actually, and he was focusing on werewolf ability. So he's like chopping up all the enemies, and I still had my kind of just more basic like
You were
earth
still a
magic I was
loser.
shooting out. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I do like with the druid, I hadn't played it, but right, like in D2, you would like, oh, if I'm going like the werewolf build, you're just this big goofy looking werewolf the whole game,
Yeah, you just walk around like that, exactly.
Yeah, and you don't get to see like like, with these games, you get new armor. My armor looks different. I look cool. I've got a cool weapon, or I got a cool helm now. Where like, oh, I'm just a werewolf. So it's cool that like in this game, if you use a werewolf ability, your character will automatically shift into that werewolf, and then like sort of phase back out. And then that was sort of with the barbarian, right? Like, yeah, depending on what ability you use, you'll bust out whatever weapon automatically. So it is cool that they're making some change like that. And then eventually, right, we're going to get mounts so that you can sort of traverse the world, at a more brisk pace, and I'm sure there'd be some fun things to do with that too. But
yeah, I mean, and that
yeah.
makes a ton of sense. I think it speaks to how big this game is going to be, right? As soon as you put mounts in a game, you're kind of implying that, there's a lot of ground to cover, a lot of places to explore. So rather than like the smaller zones of D2 and D3, like these are going to be big open spaces with lots of things happening. I love the potential for just dynamic events to kind of take place, and I'm really looking forward to trying out the multiplayer. I know we didn't get a chance to try it out this weekend, but so many of my buddies were playing online as well, and it was kind of cool to see like names of like people on my friends list pop up in the bottom right corner, like this person completed an objective or this person completed some kind of task, right, or some kind of achievement or something. And man, we're gonna have so many people playing this game that we know. Just be able to hop in, hop out with people. I can't wait to try that out as well. The scope and the scale of this game is it's getting me excited too. Like I just like the idea of being able to go anywhere. Like as you mentioned, kind of from that big town that you get to about an hour in, the freedom to maybe go anywhere. And the only kind of thing gating you off is that it kind of tells you what kind of level you should be, or what the average enemy level is, or something like that for each zone, right? And that's helpful, obviously. Like if you want more of a challenge, you go somewhere you're maybe not ready for. If you're looking for maybe a little bit more of a lighter play, and you're looking to maybe pick up some crafting materials or just kind of goof around for a little bit, you can go to somewhere a little bit easier. But yeah, I don't know how the enemy scaling works. So one of my buddies was trying to talk about that in one of our group chats, and I wasn't really super paying attention, but it sounded like when you play with other people, the game is scaled to like each individual person playing, right? So yeah, I think if there are maybe 2 or 3 people playing, gosh, I hope I'm not getting this wrong or anything. If there's 2 or 3 people playing, like one is level 20, one's level 6, like the game will accommodate that, right? It won't. Not all the enemies will be level 20 necessarily, or level 6. I think it'll find a way to make it so the experience is balanced for everybody, and that if you're completing a quest, like everyone can maybe get credit for that rather than just the game host or something like that. I think they've figured out some of those things from years ago that were a little bit more of an issue.
I was gonna say Diablo 3 seemed to have that figured out, and
yeah, okay,
yeah. So I can't imagine it's gonna be that much different from that one.
Yeah, I know it's actually funny. My sister, I played with her for literally about like 15 minutes, and I was more progressed than she was, and I invited her to my game, and then it jumped up to my quest line. So I don't know how that affected the levels per se, but it skipped her up to where I was. But it was weird when she went back to play her game, then like those things weren't done, and she had to go back and beat the area she was at to progress. Okay. So I don't know if that's a beta thing.
Could be a beta thing too. Yeah, I imagine that.
Yeah. Wasn't that in Diablo 3 too, though? I thought there was like whoever the leader was, it was like we were playing their game.
It might have been. I don't know. At D3, like I said, my time generally, I go back to Diablo 2s because I spend so much more time with that game. So I'm not sure on D3 exactly.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I thought when we jumped into someone's game, it's like, okay, we're progressing their storyline, but then when we hop out, it doesn't, like, it's not affecting any, like, we still keep the levels that we earned and stuff, but I don't remember any, like, I remember having to go back to do story stuff where I was like, man, we just did this like 20 minutes ago. Like, why am I redoing it? But then I guess like I knew where to go at that point, I guess. But yeah, like I said, I could be wrong on that, but that's from my memory. It feels like it was probably like 2 years ago, but it feels like 10. Like that's there's been so many games in between. It's just incredible.
In terms of the story or just events that took place, like what really stood out to you? Is there a moment in the game, maybe outside of the cutscenes, which I think we all agree were pretty impressive, like just kind of minute to minute gameplay? Was there something that jumped out at you? It was like, oh, this is really cool, or oh, I was kind of surprised by this. Like, was there something that stood out for you guys as kind of being particularly memorable?
I guess, well, I mean, for me, it was just that the Necro is as much fun as it is. Like I said, that it's good to, have a character in mind. And then when you play it, it clicked the most. The first weekend I played around, and then the second one, like that was actually one I was like, honestly, I was a little busy running around, but I was like, if I was off and just sitting at home, I could actually see myself, leveling this up to 25. But I guess I really sort of like the mini dungeons that they had sort of scattered about, right? Like they weren't everywhere, but they're pretty common. And then you'd go in and there'd be a little objective, sort of go open up these two things to open the door. Then you work your way through, and then you fight a boss, and then you can teleport out. So I'm excited to see more sort of set dungeons, and it'll be really exciting to see how those sort of progress, especially when we do get to higher level content. Are these going to be are there going to be big sprawling labyrinth ones, or are they all going to be sort of more short, bite size, but maybe pack more of a punch kind of thing. So I'm going to be excited to see how that plays out.
I was mostly surprised by how polished the experience seemed to be. Like, I get that it's not that far from the true release, and that you'd probably want to put your best product out, but it's still technically a beta and an online experience at that. Like, usually, you get into things like this, you might get like booted out, or the game just crashes, or you're just like walking around and seeing bugs all the time. But it felt like it was ready to go. Like, I didn't really come across anything.
Ain't no Bethesda game.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like I don't remember. I don't think they didn't delay. Like, they didn't announce a date and delay or anything. Eh? Like, it's always
no. I don't know if they at some point said like 2022. But it was never like November 2022.
Yeah,
they never had a solid.
They never gave us a day.
Yeah,
they never gave us a day. Yeah. So yeah, like it pretty, like, in this day and age where these kind of big budget titles always seem to get pushed back. It seems like a really polished piece of material for kind of more or less reaching like the deadline that they had kind of given us to a certain extent anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with that too, David. I think that this game, yeah, even if they've been working on this for a long time, obviously, and I don't think they were going to put out the beta so much to like for bug testing as much, but more like try to test the servers, obviously, make sure that they're going to hold up, and also just to give people like their first experience with the game. Like, this beta is going to sell a lot of people on this game. A lot of people are going to play something smooth like this. And you referred to it as a demo, and in a way, it is a demo. It's a showcase of like what this game can do and what people are going to be able to do with it. And so I think, yeah, it being so polished isn't a surprise to me. They weren't going to. This is the big kind of showcase of this game, and they were going to put their best foot forward with it. So,
did previous Diablos require you to have the PlayStation Plus or the Xbox Live like?
I feel like yes.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, but I feel like yes.
I guess that's just another benefit of going PC, is that you don't have to pay for that.
Yeah, the extra.
Assuming you don't have it, I guess. Like, I have it just because I want the free
PSN game.
I like getting those free games. I don't know if I've ever played any of the mounting catalog that I have in my PS Plus that'll be taken away from me the day that I cancel. But if I ever do jump in there one day, hopefully they'll all be waiting for me. I've got every Kingdom Hearts lined up that so I can see my my lack of progression through that series.
Did they ever give away Ni no Kuni?
I'm sure it's in there.
It might very well be, yeah. If not the first, the second one for sure. I think
I don't think you need to pay anything for them to give you away
worse, Ni no Kuni 2 or Octopath Traveler 1?
David's about to change his tune on Octopath Traveler.
I don't know.
Okay?
I technically I played Octopath Traveler 1 more than I played Ni no Kuni 2, that's for sure. Not much more.
What a piece of poop.
Yeah, not a good one. Not a good one.
And honestly, the more I look back at it, the first one isn't even that good.
I really
like the first one. The first one has a charm to it. The second one just totally abandoned.
100%. The first one is a good game. I think it's just vastly overrated.
Is it? No one talks about that game at all.
Ni no Kuni 1?
Who talks about Ni no Kuni 1 besides me?
Maybe not to this day, but at the time, people talked about that game.
Yeah, there was a lot of praise for it. There was a lot of praise for
Jesus,
I think because it looks like it's Studio Ghibli, right?
Yeah,
like people
it looks awesome.
Who doesn't praise Studio Ghibli whenever they're doing something, right? Like it kind of goes with the territory, I guess.
That's where I felt where the praise is coming from. It was just a simple, if you wanted to play a Studio Ghibli game, then this is the game to play.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's where the first one got all its praise from, and then the second one, just fell apart. Like
David and I even pre-ordered that second one.
I know, we're looking so forward to it. And I still remember the scene. I think we were still playing at this point where we got to the casino. Like the casino city was pretty neat and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some neat cities for sure.
And then Lefty, when he shot his booger at the dice, and I was just killed myself laughing. And I remember, I think I like showed you that, and then after that, I think whatever we went there to, like, we win the dice thing to get whatever it was that we were there to get, and that's when the city building started and things they completely fell apart.
Oh, the quote unquote city building.
City building was pretty atrocious.
Yeah.
It's not fun at all. Before we get too off track, not that we couldn't spend the rest of the podcast, bashing Ni no Kuni 2. But Diablo 4, I think one of the things that really surprised me was the change in perspective. I think does a lot for making the game feel unique. Like it feels like a Diablo game, but almost doesn't in a way. The way the kind of camera is zoomed in and how it just works. Like every environment, I didn't feel like I'm seeing the whole space all at once. Like rooms felt a little more claustrophobic. Spaces felt a little bit tighter because you're more zoomed in by default. I think that's, I don't know if that's just a console thing or if the PC had it like that too, Casey, but I felt like just I'm seeing my character feels larger on screen. Enemies feel larger. What I'm seeing a little bit more detail in the environment because I'm seeing a smaller or a more close in snapshot of it. And I like it a lot, actually. I think it works very well for this game. I'm curious to see how that's going to work when you get your mount and you're kind of traveling across, larger environments, whether you want that close in view or if you can adjust it or not. But just being able to see everything closer in, seeing all the details, like in the buildings, in the town, in the dungeons, like you see all these small little like lights flickering and bones and rocks everywhere and just, broken pieces of things. Like it just, the world just felt so much more realized, kind of seeing all those nitty gritty details.
Well, it'll help with the horror aesthetic too, to kind of have the closer in view. I feel like the closer you are, the scarier it is, sort of thing. So
yeah, and yeah, exactly, David.
Stuff popping out of corners and doors, and
I often felt like enemies would just come out of nowhere or kind of run at me from off screen and be like, "Where did you come from?" Like I thought I'm fighting like 5 or 10 enemies, and then there's like 10 more behind them, and I don't even see them at that time. And I kind of like that you're almost fighting them in waves, and you're not fighting like 100 enemies at once, which again is kind of comical. It's a little bit scarier to know like that there's a hidden wave that you don't see off screen that they're going to come get you next. I like that idea. And
well, that was one of the funny things with playing Rogue is the first area where they tell you where they're like, oh, go to the thing to save our friend or whatever. And I went in there and I was shooting people, and then my arrows were going off screen, and I could see like a health meter going down, and I'm like, what am I hitting?
Yeah.
And that was my introduction to the boss of that area.
Oh, God.
Was that I'm hitting the boss from off screen.
Yeah, that's so
good. You can do that with like the Hydras with the sorceress. If you put those by the ledge of the screen, you're going to be blasting people off the screen.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that. Just you're getting random experience points. You don't even know where it's coming from. That's great.
Yeah.
Casey, you're mentioning like Hydra and like Frozen Orb. Like to me, these are like end level sorceress skills. How far did you level up your sorceress? Or are they just available earlier on or something like that?
Well, I didn't actually use the Hydra, so I don't know. Okay. But the orb was in the second tier.
Okay. That's
so you could get it pretty quickly. Yeah. Frozen Orb used to be, I think, right, the capstone.
That was like a level 30 spell, right? Like that was one of your last ones.
And maybe with the Hydras as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there was. You can get access to them pretty early, which feels good, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
And then you can obviously, like you said, you can pump more points into specific spells, right, to make them even stronger. So obviously, when you get to level cap, you'll probably have like your sort of, hey, this is my build. I go do, I just go kill enemies with, and then maybe you might have a specialized build for like a more single target thing, but
I wonder if you'll be able to save different builds. Like you'll have a page you can kind of flip between where it adjusts your skill points based on, build number 1, build number 2. I imagine they might have something like that, given the fact that you can always reset the skill points, right? Like why not?
Yeah, that seems
save
like
different profiles.
Yeah, that seems like either that should already be in the game. If not, yeah, that's something they should be working on.
They'll add that. Yeah,
someone will be screaming for it.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Well, what's I guess the overwhelming consensus seems to be that it looks like a pretty good game. Expectations are high. Hopes are high.
What did we say Metacritic wise for this, David? Do you know? Can you look that up?
Yeah,
I'm curious what we. Can I raise my score? Whatever. I want to
no, it's locked in.
I want to raise my
bid. Feels like
bid.
a 9-3 off the bat.
Yeah, it does. It does.
I don't know what I said originally, but that's
man.
This might work out well for us because so Jordan, you went with 87.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, I went with 90. And Paige went with 78.
Oh,
man. Oh, was I not here for that one? I guess.
No, I don't. I think you missed the Metacritic showdown for that one. But
man, Paige, she was a hater that day.
Mistakes were made. It's too scary for her, I guess. I don't know.
Well, no, I think at the time she had worked in some and I don't think she was totally off keister with. Like the Blizzard hatred would bring down the score a bit, and I still think that might be the case.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean that is out there.
Yeah. I definitely had saw some outlets, that took their strong quote unquote stance against them, like and then all of a sudden I saw like the entire team playing Diablo 4 this weekend. So I think I mean I'm sure there's no doubt
they'll cover
people who are like still, going to go nowhere near Blizzard. But I think a lot of people have sort of are past that point.
I still find this whole Microsoft Sony thing hilarious, that Microsoft's strategy for getting the Activision deal done is to admit how pathetic the whole like Microsoft thing. Like I was like listening to some of the stuff where they're like, our market share is this low and this bad, and it's like, it's probably not as bad as you make it seem, but is really taking the L now worth going to get you the W later? It just seems so weird to me to hear these executives talking about how bad they're doing, and that this Activision purchase isn't going to be that big a deal for them. It's just like, man, like what the hoops you have to go through, like the crap they're shoveling on themselves is just hard to. It's not something you see all the time. Like it's weird.
It is just this big extended soap opera now, and I wish it would just get done. Honestly, I think better for all parties involved, even Sony to some extent, if you just get it done now.
I think they were pretty well there, because I think I don't know if it was all of Europe, but I think the UK authority like approved it or something, and it seems like the Americans are going to approve it, so it doesn't.
Just a matter of time.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time, and out of the whole thing, all that's going to happen is that some Switch owners are going to get cloud versions of Call of Duty.
Yeah, the real winners in this whole thing. People looking forward to cloud COD.
Yeah. If you really needed that cloud version of Modern Warfare 2 on your Switch, good luck with the Joy-Cons. That's all I can say.
Someone will play it. So there will be an audience of 1 to 10 or something.
I'm looking forward to the rage quits over Joy-Con drift while trying to aim in Modern Warfare 2.
Joy-Con drift will be a feature. They'll incorporate it into the game somehow. It'll be the 2023 version of motion controls or something like that.
There'll be I'm sure they'll work in some kind of like aim assist or something, and the Xbox people will be upset at the Switch people because they're getting aim assists, and insults will be levied.
So Casey, I meant to ask you. I imagine you're going, if you're going to play on PC, you're going to get the game digitally. Obviously, that's really the only option. I'm not sure if I should go digital or physical. Like, do you get any bonus? I'm sure there's some bonuses for going digital. Do you get early access if you go digital? Like, can you play the game? Like, I'm so desperate to play early.
I think it's like 3 or 4 days early, isn't it?
And I believe
Even on consoles, they're doing that too. That might get
I
me.
I'm
think
pretty
so.
sure the place. I think when I was at the PS store, and I'll look it up while I'm talking about it, but I'm almost positive I was at the PS store. Because when I went into the app, I had put Diablo 4, and it didn't take me, like, the demo was its own app separate from, like, the two
That's
games are
right. That's
separate. Like
right.
the beta and the real game were separate, and I accidentally went to the real game first. And I'm almost certain it said that if you pre-order the game, it's like you
So
get it access like 3 days early or something.
I'm looking
Give
now.
it to me.
So
Give it to me.
so this is PC. I'll let and if you need to download the digital deluxe edition
Okay,
to
digital
get
deluxe.
4 days early, which is I believe $10 more expensive.
Okay.
If let's see, pre-purchase on the PS5. So yep, similar.
Same
If you
thing.
buy the
Yeah.
standard edition, you get a few extra little knickknacks. If you get the digital deluxe, yeah, you get the 4 days early plus like a mount and some extra
Yeah.
armor and stuff. And then there's like a super deluxe one, but
Yeah, it's 120 American before tax. The
For the
deluxe
digital
version.
deluxe, no, that's got to be
Yeah.
the super expensive one. I'm looking at the
so
$90
the
one.
standard is
Oh,
$70.
yeah, the 90
US.
doesn't get you anything. There's no extra days for the $90 one.
No, I'm
Yeah,
looking
no,
right
the
now.
$90 one you get 4 days early.
Yeah, 4 days.
Really?
Yeah,
Because
give me a second.
I'm at the PS store now, and it says standard. You get the game, you get the
Yeah.
light bearer mount, you get the faith mount armor and cross game items for $90. And then for
sorry.
$120 you
Is
get
this Canadian pricing?
I was
Yes.
looking at I was looking
Yeah.
at the American.
Yeah, I'm looking
pricing
at
thing.
90, which 90 USD
90 US,
is the
yes.
second.
Oh, okay,
That's
yeah.
right,
So
that's
for
it.
120 of Canadian, you get the early access.
Yeah.
Is it worth $30 to play it 4 days early? Like I'm
So,
such a
yeah,
You
It
you
might
tell
be.
us, Jordan. You
It
tell
might be.
us.
Oh
Is
my
it worth
gosh.
$30 extra
Well,
for
hold
4
on.
days?
I'm
For
waffling.
US, it's $20. You get 4 extra days. You get a mount. You get mount armor, and actually, look at that. You get the premium seasonal battle pass unlocked.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah,
That's
for
cool.
130
Yeah.
130 Canadian, you get the battle pass unlocked plus 20 tier skips.
Yeah, looking at the Ultimate Edition,
Just get that.
which
Oh,
is
man.
it gives you a skip and then Wings of the Creator emote.
Don't do the if you're spending this much, you might as well spend this much thing. Like that's oh my god, 129.
Well, to be fair,
I'm looking
the
at it right now.
accelerated is only 10 more USD dollars, so that you either get the 70, the 90, or the $100 edition.
Jordan, I paid 40 extra dollars for Final Fantasy 16 Steelbook.
Yeah.
So and a map on a napkin. So
How cool!
you're talking to the wrong guy about.
I need to see this mount. I want to see how cool the light bearer mount looks. Looks like, do you want to be one of those guys like you're just a pompous jerk? Like, you're running around the world like, oh yeah, I bought the Ultimate Edition. Look how stupid my mount looks.
There goes
dude,
Jordan on his mount, and he's using his Wings of the Creator mode at me. What a
That's what
jerk!
happened with World of Warcraft Classic when they added in the store mount, right? Because Classic players were very anti store in general, right?
Yeah,
they
of
wanted
course.
it like the old days, so they had for the expansion pack, there was like, hey, you could buy this, we give you a boosted character and a mount, and then people fly around on these mounts. And in Warcraft, they have some emotes where you can like slash wave, right, or like slash high five. There's one slash spit where it'd be like, so like, you run by and it'd be like, Casey spit on David, So
That's awesome.
the community rallied, and anytime they saw someone with a store mount, they'd slash spit at them. So like all these people like just getting spit on, they don't know why, and then they took the emote out of the game.
Oh,
Spoil sports. Yeah, God, I might be going digital now.
Yeah, but I did the $90 second tier one so I could play the 4 days early because I am indeed a jabroni.
Yeah, I might be joining you. I need to think about like, okay, what other
and
game?
you get the battle pass. Like, let's be serious. I would probably buy the first battle pass regardless. So
yeah. The fact that they're just throwing that in, I mean, gosh, that's a good reason.
That helped, right? Because the battle pass presumably would be anywhere from $10 to $20, I'd be guessing.
Like, I'm curious how long a season is, right? The premium seasonal battle pass. Like, how long is that?
I still get emails from like Diablo Immortal, probably. And they're like, "Join Diablo Immortal Season 38." I'm like, Jesus, dude.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Didn't the game just come out last year too?
Well, it's been a while now, surprisingly.
Oh man,
I think so. Let's see when. But yeah, I was like, Jesus Christ! I guess they had seasons are like a few months long.
Yeah, mobile seasons are always going to be
Yeah, I
pretty
guess
short, I
June
guess, right?
2022. Wow, yeah, it's only not even been a year.
Not even
it's a
a year.
weekly season.
Yeah, hold on, let me see.
Casey, it just feels like 3 years in your life. That's how long they've been messaging you about this stupid battle pass.
Let's see. Join through season 11 battle pass. So yeah, I guess there's every month. What's
Every
it?
month, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
See, like that's ridiculous. Even at $10, like you'd have to charge me like $5 for the battle pass to want me to continue to do that max.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, yet we're more than willing to pay $20 for whatever Diablo 4's battle pass is going to be.
Like it'll be interesting. Usually, I feel like the seasons on like previous Diablo games, they last a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
cool.
All those emails, I'm like, Jesus Christ, another new season, huh?
That's a lot. I'm so smitten with this game now. Like I was planning to get it like equally because like I was interested, but to support my buddy who's working on it. But now it's like, wow, just playing this game, I'm like, we're gonna get just Casey. I can picture us just zombieing every night, like playing this game so many hours, like dragging yourself to work in the morning, like you bleary eyed, you've been playing Diablo for like 8 hours or something. You gotta work in the morning, like, oh gosh.
Like the good old days, man.
It is. Yeah, that's right.
That's why they invented coffee.
What's funny
the
is
old days, my brother and I both were addicted to Diablo 2, but we only had one computer.
Yeah.
So we would go torture. Hour on, hour off.
I like that. That builds of a familial bond. Unbreakable.
And I think that's why, like,
that or a lifelong hatred.
Right? Like, I could only play it half the time I wanted to play it growing up. But like,
you learn to savor. You savor those hours.
Dude. The times when like you look over and it's like, oh man, it's like 1:55 in the morning. I gotta get off soon. You like peek over your shoulder and he's out like a Christmas light. You're like, oh baby, let's go. I'm gonna keep playing this for 4 more hours.
Well, this is where now you guys make fun of me all the time for it, but this is where you switch his regular coffee for decaf.
Yeah.
Right?
That or better yet,
you get a few bonus hours in there, right?
Find some sleeping pills somewhere just so to crush them up. Here's your coffee.
Sleeping pills in the decaf.
Yeah. Really put him to sleep.
That's it.
I have some turkey and wine here if you want to have a snack in between.
What's funny is I remember Diablo 3, I had bought the Ultimate Edition. I remember the big box that came in. I think there's a statue.
Oh, I've got them. I got both the collector's editions. Yeah,
it had the I think Diablo kind of bust type of statue, and it had the crystal. Do you remember the crystal USB?
I've got it right in my hands as we speak.
Oh, I love it. Oh,
it sits right under my monitor.
That is so good. Yeah, that was a really cool Ultimate Edition for sure.
It had Diablo 2 installed on
on the USB. Yeah, gosh, awesome stuff. I'm kind of getting nostalgic for like just the all those times of playing Diablo 1, 2, and 3 like growing up. It's just like such good memories of this game. And the beta kind of brought all of them forward. So I'm very excited to play the game.
Such a mood right now for like a juicy grind game. Like that's like it would be perfect. It'd be perfect.
Well, I was saying when we did the Christmas, we talked about the gifts that everyone got. Like, Casey, you got me that Diablo-esque game, and it totally put me in the mood for this genre again. Like, I hadn't really been thinking about it until I booted up that game, and I'm playing it. I'm like, I don't want to stop playing this game, but at the same time, I recognize like this summer I'm going to be playing nothing but a game like this. So, like, especially now after I've gotten the taste for it again, and I think it's just a thing that comes in waves. Like, it's not the type of game I want to play, every month for the rest of my life or something like that, but you just get a craving for this type of gameplay cycle of like do the quest, level up, get a new skill, fight a tougher enemy, go to a new part of the map. Like, man, it's so gratifying.
Well, I mean, if you need to fill that itch, you just play Diablo 2 until then.
Because well, it's on
the 5 review games.
It's on like 50 or 60% off right now too.
That's right. No, I'm saving myself. I'm saving my Diablo experience, dungeon crawling experience for June. I guess one of my concerns is going to be, and I don't know how many listeners that we have are maybe facing a similar dilemma, and maybe we'll end it around here. Breath of the Wild coming out, or Breath of the Wild, Jesus, Tears of the Kingdom coming out May 12th. Like, that's not a lot of time between, finishing one game, finishing the next one. So if it's anything like Breath of the Wild and you're just consumed by that game as well, like that's going to be an interesting, choice to be making every night, which game you want to play. I don't know, but I'm excited for
choice I won't have to make.
Nice for some.
Tears of the Kingdom can go to hell.
How dare you? Get off this podcast.
No, I don't. I have nothing against it. I just have no interest in doing it again.
That's fair. Maybe we should call it here. I think Casey's ready to conk out.
Yeah, well, I did wake up from my hour nap before.
That's right.
I woke up, we fell asleep watching something. I was like, oh my God, what time is it? Like, I know I set an alarm,
Yeah, of course.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, but this was just a impressions episode on the Diablo 4 beta. I'm curious how many of you out there also played the beta. Did you get really into it? Did you try it? Did it not really grab you? I can't imagine that, but I would love to hear from you. You can reach out to David via email, david@thethirstymage.com. We're on Spotify. We're putting our podcast on YouTube again. You can find us on your podcast apps. Leave us a review. Let us know what you think about the show. Let us know what you think about Diablo 4. And yeah, I think that'll do it for this week. Dave and I are recording another episode very soon where we are going to talk about another game that we really, really love, that we already talked about a little bit. But Alex from Backlog Battle is going to join us to talk full spoiler cast for Octopath Traveler 2. And that's coming up pretty soon. So I think that'll do us for this episode. So thanks everybody for listening. Have a great evening, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.
Adios.
Bye.